Welcome to Doctors of the Baobab. On this podcast, we go beyond the white coat, where we get to know the doctors that we admire and respect. Join us as we explore the stories behind the white coat, uncovering the humanity behind the medical expertise. Whether it's navigating the complexities of patient care, overcoming personal obstacles, or advocating for change in healthcare systems. Each episode promises to inspire, to educate, and to uplift. So sit back, relax, and prepare to embark on a journey of discovery with Doctors of the Baobab. So today we are introducing Dr. Xongi Mabaso, distinguished physician, doctor, and a pharmaceutical executive with a multifaceted background at the intersection of medicine, business, and community health. She's a graduate of the prestigious University of KwaZulu-Natal, and I'm proud to say that's also my alma mater. Dr. Xongi has seamlessly blended her medical expertise with an MBA to carve out an illustrious career path. She currently serves as the medical director for a leading pharmaceutical company where she has garnered widespread recognition for exceptional contributions to healthcare. Her visionary leadership and unwavering commitment to patient well-being has been underscored by a string of accolades, including 2 Vice President Awards for pioneering patient support and adherence strategies. And under her guidance, her team achieved the highest adherence rates globally, setting a benchmark for patient care excellence. Dr. Xongi's passion for innovation and improving health outcomes is exemplified by her receipt of the President's Award for an initiative that significantly enhanced outcomes for inflammatory bowel disease patients. Throughout her career, she has dedicated herself to fostering healthier communities, spearheading initiatives aimed at addressing critical healthcare needs. Here's an example of that. In response to the COVID-19 pandemic, Dr. Xongi took proactive measures to safeguard public health by initiating a groundbreaking free screening program which reached more than 10 million individuals in South Africa. Her tireless efforts in this regard have been instrumental in mitigating the spread of the virus and, more importantly, saving lives. Dr. Xongi embodies the epitome of a modern healthcare leader, seamlessly integrating her medical expertise, business acumen, and a profound commitment to community welfare. Her innovative approaches and transformative initiatives continue to shape the landscape of healthcare, leaving an indelible mark on the industry and the lives of countless individuals worldwide. Dr. Xongi Mabaso, thank you so much for joining us today on Doctors of the Baobab, and welcome.
Thank you for inviting me and for having me here.
Great. So I usually start off by making a disclaimer where I have a disclaimer to make, and my disclaimer is that I have known you since we were both in our teenage years at the same medical school. And it's really interesting to me because you realize how much time flies. It's almost 20 or more than 20 years since we were at medical school. But what is really fascinating is now looking back and especially reflecting on your career as somebody that we have had so many touch points over the past 20 years, and seeing with awe and with inspiration the growth that you have made, not only in your personal life but also in your professional life. So I really want to share with the audience the remarkable journey that you have had over the past 20 years. But this is not about our relationship. This is about you. And so always a good place to start, as I say on this podcast, is right at the beginning. Let's go beyond the 20 years. Just go back a little bit further to your background. How did you even get to a point where you decided you wanted to become a doctor? What drove you to that point?
Yeah. Thank you so much for that question. I'm a Pretoria girl, and those who come from Pretoria will understand the significance of being a Pretoria girl. I come from Atteridgeville, Peli, a typical, South African township. And as you say, it's more than 20 years ago. So I was born at a time where things were difficult, still born under apartheid, and things were not like our futures were not that bright, with all the segregation. So anyway, I grew up in a township, but I think for me, the moments which I would say were pivotal moments that changed my trajectory was firstly, my mom was a teacher. So by her being a teacher, she understood the importance of education, and she always encouraged us to strive to to do well in school. And secondly, I found a way to I got myself into this program, which was for like kids, small kids who were good in math and science. And there was this non-governmental organization that used to sponsor us to do extra math and science. So every Saturday we would get on a bus and go to Waterkloof, at a school there in Waterkloof, where we would do like extra math and science. And in living in the township, I saw a bigger picture. And I think that actually is something that defines my life a lot because I'm always striving for the next bigger thing. So I saw a bigger picture and I saw these houses in Waterkloof and I saw how people lived and I was like, wow, this is something that's possible, right? Because if you're not exposed, if you just live all your life in the township and you're not exposed to what's out there, you don't know. So I think that planted a seed in me to want to do something more. So I think this is where I started to strive, did well in school, and I also wanted to help people. I wanted to have an opportunity to impact people in a positive way. And my dad used to work at Kalafong Hospital as an administrator. And so when I was in matric, he actually took me to the hospital for like a stay for a day kind of thing and got me to spend time with the occupational therapist learning about that because he thought, you know what, that would be an opportunity. But I don't think at that time they thought, I'll be able to be a doctor. Like that was just too beyond. It was beyond what my parents could dream. It was beyond what I could dream. But lo and behold, the way things happened, I was able to get really good marks when I finished my matric. I was able to graduate top of the class. I had very good high marks for in terms of our region. And as you know, most of the time when you have great marks at that time, when we grew up, it's like, oh, you should be a doctor. And so I think all that culminated in me going to medical school.
Great. And one thing I do remember about you in medical school, you seem to be somebody that because I was a few years ahead of you in medical school,
Yes.
but you really seem to be somebody that seems so comfortable in medical school. You were friends, I think, with people in grades in years above you, years below you. You just seem to be somebody that really uh, knew how to engage with all types of people. How important has it been for you to network? And I think this is really one of the reasons that you and I, and as I mentioned earlier, have been able to
Mm-hmm.
to still connect, even though we were in completely separate years,
Yes.
different roles
Yes.
over the years.
Yes.
How important is it to network for you?
It's so important to network. And I'm sure later on in the podcast we'll talk about leadership and just building a brand for yourself, but also just connecting with people is important. I've always been interested in people. I have a deep interest in people, and if I meet you, I'll be interested to know you. So I suppose that makes me like a natural networker, if that's what you want to call it. But I do think, in terms of leadership, it's important to talk to people, to try and find out more, and to also build an extensive network where you can call on people, whenever you need, because a lot of times there's things that's going to happen that might be things that you need or projects that you're thinking about, that in your life you would have met people that are able to help you, and you can also help other people. Because I think one of the things is that we are a community, and Ubuntu is that thing. It's like I am because you are, and we all feed off each other. So I'm super interested in people, and I love to meet people and get to know them.
Ah, awesome. And I'm glad that you mentioned Ubuntu because that is exactly the premise of the coaching, doctor
Yes.
coaching business, something that is so important to us as doctors, the connectedness. Did the community work that you're currently doing, or let me say the community focus that you currently have, did that start at medical school? Can you tell me a little bit about your experience at medical school and whether this notion of Ubuntu, how did it start and how did it find expression when you were at medical school, if at all?
Yeah. So I think at medical school, obviously, when you start to interact with patients, I'm very interested in people, like, more, not just about the disease they have, but their stories and the stories behind them. And I think for me, one of the things that is still true even this day is that I'm super interested in women. And when I was in medical school, I think my obs and gynae rotations were the ones that I enjoyed the most. And also post graduation, when I was an MO, I spent a lot of time in obs and gynae because I have a very keen interest in women's health, and how women interact with the health system. Because I do believe that women have a lot of challenges that in general, in terms of in their life, which can also be expressed in how they seek health, and the kind of health support that they go for. So I've always been super interested in women, and that's why even today I'm very keen on uplifting women, supporting women, and just seeing how we can help women move forward, because I do believe that by helping women move forward, we help the whole nation move forward.
And I don't want to lose the thread around leadership as women, and particularly leadership as Black women and leadership as African women, right? I'm going to go back to medical school, but I want to focus on this for a little bit because I think it's something that comes up a lot, even in coaching practice. How do we navigate the especially the corporate world as women leaders and as Black women leaders and Africans? What have been the learnings for you over time in situations where you found yourself as the only woman in the room or the only Black woman in the room? How have you navigated those situations? What can you share with the audience about that?
Yeah. Yeah, so I think of course I've been the only, but I never want to be the only, and that's why I always want to lift people to be there in the room with me. And the difficulties of being the only is, what I found is like carrying the. It's almost like you carry the whole nation, right? Because if you're the only Black woman in the room, it's like you are representing all Black women in the room. And I mean, we're not all the same, right? So you have that. There sometimes people have stereotypes that they put you in a certain box, and they want you to stay in that box. So I think in my career, I've had positive, not so positive experiences, but I've always over indexed on the positive experiences, and trying to see how I can learn. And one of the things for me is that our upbringing and our context, they affect us so much, in terms of, so I'll give you an example. You know that in the African culture, generally, I think, and it's not just African culture, because I've had the privilege of working with different people from different countries now. So I work with people from Japan, China, I mean, all over the world. I work with people there. And I've seen some similarities in some of the cultural aspects, right? We are encouraged to, so don't speak unless you're spoken to, kind of thing. You should only speak if you're spoken to, and like almost like keep your space, right? But in corporate, if you don't speak, So if you show up to a meeting and you don't say anything, then people come to the conclusion that you're probably not smart, or you're probably not contributing, or maybe you are not engaged, or whatever conclusion people come to, which will probably be a negative conclusion, right? So you have to really challenge yourself to get out of that mentality of how we've been raised, by raising your hand and speaking up and saying what you think, so that you can also contribute. And if you have thoughts, your thoughts will be good. And most of the time, I think we hold back on the thoughts. When you find yourself as the only Black African woman in a room full of other people, you think that they're smarter than you. You think that they had better education than you. You think that they probably have better ideas than you. But in time, I've learned that we also have ideas that are worth sharing. So it's important, sometimes for us to speak up and to give our ideas. In the beginning, it's hard. In the beginning, you're doing it and your heart is pounding and your mouth is dry and you can hardly get the words out. But by practicing more and more and being super intentional about it, you get better at it and you get more comfortable in doing it. And this is just one example. And it will also, other things is about making sure that, you let people know what you're doing. Because I think sometimes we're not very good at letting people know the contribution that we're making. And somebody said, I was on a panel with a discussion with other ladies, and she was said that the closed mouth doesn't get fed. So if you don't speak up, if you need support, if you don't say what you're doing, you end up not getting the support that you need for you to be able to thrive and to be excellent, because you're just not speaking up. So, and that's also cultural, right? That's how we've been raised. But is to get out of that mentality and just speak up. And if you need support to do something, if you don't really understand what's going on, speak to leaders. Like you're saying about networking. When you're in a meeting and there's leaders, sometimes we feel shy, we don't want to speak up, you don't want to take space, so just take up the space.
Yeah. So important what you're saying regarding having also the confidence and building the confidence within yourself. And a big part of that is also understanding who you are, having the self-awareness, honing your craft. Of course, you have to make sure that
Yeah.
you know your work, you, as young people say, that you stand on your business. And I'm really also grateful for you mentioning that it's a time. It takes time sometimes to build yourself up to that point. Of course, some people do it very naturally, but something that a lot of doctors struggle with is imposter syndrome. Just
Mm-hmm.
being in a leadership position and doubting yourself. And from what you're saying, that is sometimes the limitation that that people might have. You are in this role, but you're not so sure of yourself. Do I really belong here? What will people say if I speak up? So very insightful comments that you have made. Was it also your experience that you had mentors to guide you through this? Because this is something that, and I will say from my personal experience, everything that you've said, I also learned through the input from mentors, and at a point even from a coach. Can you share with us your thoughts around mentorship for women's leadership?
Absolutely, mentorship is critical. It's a critical component of how we develop, is to have those mentors who are going to really build you up. So I've had many mentors in my career. And I've had both, what they call formal mentors and informal mentors, So informal mentors could be anyone that you admire, or someone who's done something that you also want to do. And you could just reach out to them and say, could we have coffee? Could we have a discussion around that? And they informally give you information and advice. And informal mentors could be in a workplace situation where I think, in medicine, even though we don't call it that, but when you're an intern or you're a medical officer, you always have the registrars who are there. And so I think the registrars are probably mentors without them knowing. And I think if you get a good one, right, somebody who's interested in your development and who wants to build you, you can really have a great mentorship with them. So it's about learning and leaning on your mentors. But mentorship is something that is mentee driven. So I think you as the mentee has to be the one who drives the relationship, has to be the one who reaches out and asks for the appointments, asks the questions, coming prepared with specific questions and specific challenges that you have and sharing. So I've had many mentors in my career, and I've been very lucky because a lot of my mentors have been really great mentors. And I think mentorship for me is about having that space that is a safe space to be vulnerable, right? Because sometimes we feel like you have to be strong, put up a facade, I suppose. And we know that we all have challenges. We all know that in our roles, we all have challenges. So having a mentor that you can go to and say, "Hey, I had this specific interaction. Maybe it wasn't such a positive interaction. Can you help me speak through it and advise me as to how I could have done better?" It's a good opportunity for that. And mentors also share their journey and they share what they've learned, so that you don't have to repeat the same mistakes. So you learn from them. So I really encourage people to have mentors, and I encourage especially women to have mentors, because sometimes it's not easy for women to access that mentorship, because especially if you're in a corporate, the senior leaders might feel like they're out of reach for you. But reach out and see if they have time to mentor you. And I also encourage people to have multiple mentors. Don't just have one. Have multiple mentors. Have different people in your workplace, outside the workplace, formal mentors, informal mentors, mentors that look like you, and mentors that don't look like you. Because I think from that you'll learn a lot.
Yes, exactly. Just like I learned from you when I reached out to you many years ago and had a cup of
Yeah.
coffee and said, Dr. Shogi, I'm really curious about the pharmaceutical industry. And that was the start of my discussions with you over time around being in the pharmaceutical industry. So I know you are sharing our story now to the audience, but I'm sure you've also done it for many other people, and as you said, it's something that really works. And grateful also that being in this medical community, I still feel very strongly that doctors generally support each other around that. If
Mm-hmm.
you reach out to any doctor, chances are that they will be more than willing to
Mm-hmm.
assist you. So now,
Absolutely.
something that I also know about you when we talk about women leadership is that you are a very dedicated mother. I have
Yes.
seen you with your children, and I've often asked myself, how does she balance this very senior, demanding role of being a medical executive in a high pressure industry in the pharmaceutical sector with motherhood? How do you do that? This is something that a lot of women often think
Mm-hmm.
about or even worry about, even they haven't
Yes.
started, and exclude themselves from opportunities because they think it will take them away from their families and from their children. What are your
Yes.
strategies around this so-called work-life balance?
Yes. Yes. Work-life balance comes up a lot, eh? And I always say, I call it work-life integration. So, how to find a way to integrate your work and your life so that you have, like, a seamless integration of that. And by what I mean by that is that, you know, I think maybe in the past there was a whole notion of you work from 8 to 5, and then at 5 or you go home and you become a mom, and then tomorrow at 8 you go. But these days I see there's more of an integration between our work and our life, right? And how you make it work is that there's moments. Well, firstly, I'm gonna say one thing, which I live by, is that I feel like in this life we've got balls in the air. So you're juggling balls in the air. It's a constant juggling of balls in the air. But some of those balls are glass. And the glass balls for me are the family and the girls. And some balls you can let fall and they will bounce right back because they're rubber balls. But some balls, if you let them fall, they're going to break. So I think it's very important for us at some point in our children's lives to be there for them. But it's not about quantity, it's more about quality. So, but what I mean is that you don't have to be there all the time, but when you're there, you should be fully focused and dedicated. So that's what I do, is that when I'm at home with the girls, I'm at home with the girls, and we go on adventures, we do things, and we're fully dedicated. And when I'm at work, I'm fully dedicated through work. But I also find a way to integrate it. So obviously, our work involves a lot of travel, and sometimes there might be times when I'm traveling and I'm not around. And so I'll be traveling and I'll be out, and that time would be for work. But when I do come back from my travels, I would go and watch a hockey match. Make sure that I'm there. I will take them swimming if they need to go swimming. Making sure that I'm dropping them off at school in the morning. Things like that, so that when I am around, it becomes quality more than quantity. But I mean, the advice I would give is that find your rhythm and find what works for you, because it's not this, it doesn't work, it's not what will work for me won't work for you. And completely need a support system. We can't do this alone, we're not superwomen. You need to have a support system. So the support system could look like a partner or a spouse, could look like your family, your mom, aunts. It could be aunts that we make for ourselves, your friends, and your friends that you choose to be able to be the support system for you. If you can't be in a hockey match, maybe Auntie Nondumiso Makhunga can be there. So build that support system around yourself, so that you don't do this all by yourself. It's really helpful.
Yeah, yeah. And of course, like you say, there'll always be challenges, especially in the types of roles that you've been part of. And I want to just explore your strategies around facing challenges and
Mm-hmm.
facing barriers. We know that we're coming out of a very challenging period with the COVID-19, and it was really a turning point for many
Mm-hmm.
doctors.
Mm-hmm.
You are now based here in the United States, so you'll know that they were also very severely affected. Very recently, I heard about a huge number, thousands of medical practice that closed. So many changes within the medical space. How do you navigate through challenges for yourself? I'm talking about professionally, because
Mm-hmm.
I know the pharmaceutical industry is also very dynamic.
Mm-hmm.
How do you prepare for changes, and how do you prepare for challenges?
Yeah. So change is a constant. I think if we accept that change is a constant, so you have to be very flexible and be willing to adapt to any changes that are going to occur. And so for me, one of the things that has helped is that I I thrive actually in challenges. I don't know how to put it. It's like when I see a challenging situation, I always think, because I believe that challenges are actually opportunities. Whenever there's a challenge, always find the opportunity, because there's always an opportunity in a challenge. It's always there. It might not be apparent at that particular moment, but try and see what is the opportunity in the challenge that you're facing. And like you say, COVID-19 has changed so much, but it means that it has opened up more opportunities also, right, for us to be able to elevate and to impact, I suppose, patients in a different way. As I mean, one of the examples I can give is like pre-COVID-19, like digital health and telemedicine and things like that were not that big, right? But
Yeah.
now this big space has opened up where people are more willing to have consultations virtually. Digital health has picked up, and you can see that is an opportunity that is there, right? And it also gives us an opportunity for us, because one of the things that I'm passionate about is really trying to find solutions to the challenges that we have in the healthcare system, and trying to see how we can do better for our patients, so that the patients can have better outcomes. So that's also one way of addressing those challenges and seeing them as opportunities. The second thing for me is around learning agility. constantly learn and relearn, constantly learn and relearn, because what you knew 5 years ago might be irrelevant. You need to be learning constantly. And so I challenge myself to always be learning. And that's why I'm studying, I'm always reading to try and see what's happening. And, by learning, you also get to a position where you future proof yourself. It's like, how are you future proofing yourself? How are you looking into the 30 years time? How is the healthcare system going to look? What skills are going to be relevant then, so that you can get them now. So always thinking in the future, so that you don't get caught with your pants down when things do change. I think that
Yeah.
really, really helps.
Yeah.
And myself, on a personal perspective also, is um, thinking about stuff that is bigger than me. So having a job or work that is not just about me. It's about impacting the world, and making the world a better place. Having that vision of, it's not about me, it's about how we can all impact helps, because I always go back to what is like someone said, like always say, start with the why. If you know what is the why, always start with the why. It's not the how or the what, because the how and the what might be challenging you, but the why is always there. Start with the why. Why am I doing this? Why am I in this role? What am I trying to achieve? And if you have a powerful why, you're always able to navigate the how and the what. And also, personally, my spirituality helps me a lot, because sometimes we get thrown curveballs, things that we can't really prepare for, and having that strong spirituality helps me, because I pray and I believe in God, and I believe that He helps us, and that really, really helps me a lot.
Yeah. No, thank you for that. And something that seems to be coming out clearly is a great sense of self-awareness that you have. And again, in coaching, I find that that's always a surprise for many people, and a surprise for me too, that we sometimes lack self-awareness to be able to answer the why, right? To be able to identify our values. Maybe a little bit of an unfair question, but I think I'm going to pose it to you because I've posed it to everybody else in the interest of fairness. You working towards a legacy. I know you're still very young and you still have very many years to go in this profession. Doctors don't retire. Looking back now in terms of what you've built since you left medical school or graduated, what do you hope to leave behind in terms of your legacy, both professionally and personally?
So I think for me, in terms of, it's that's a big question, right? In terms of legacy, firstly, I think I would say twofold. The first one that has been quite important to me is, like I say, where I come from. And this is a conversation I was having with a friend the other day, and we were just saying, where I come from, I shouldn't be here, right? And I'm aware of that. I know that. I know that I shouldn't be here, with all the circumstances that were created, right? And I know that there's lots of little Shongis somewhere out there in the townships, where we come from home, who feel like they can't, who feel their world is small, who feel like they have a small world, and they're trying to figure out how to get out of that world. And I think I live my way in such a way that, just to leave that legacy, to say it can be done. It really, really can be done. You can overcome the circumstances that you're born into, or the circumstances that you find yourself in, and try and find a way to go out. So I think that is a first legacy, to say it can be done. Whatever challenges that are thrown against us, we can still do it. So I think that's the first one. And then the second one is about really making a difference in people's lives, in terms of healthcare. So what this means is that, there's still a lot of challenges, unmet need for healthcare. There's still a lot of unmet need in the different fields that I find myself in working, and trying to understand how we can really make life better for patients and their care and their treatment and their outcomes. So I hope that I'll be able to make a difference to that, in the work that I'm involved in. I'll be able to help bring solutions to the healthcare challenges that we have in all over the world, because now I have the privilege to be able to impact all over the world. So I think that will be the second legacy that I do want to live. And thirdly, for my girls, because I have two girls and I take it very seriously as their mom to leave a legacy for them of what we can do as women, in our gifts, in our purpose, in how we can impact communities, just to be a great example for them.
Yeah, excellent and very profound words around that. It's, as I said, it's usually a very unfair question because we don't always think about our legacy. It's something that we just wake up every single day and do. It's just part
Mm-hmm.
of our day
Mm-hmm.
to day existence. But certainly, you making a great contribution in the pharmaceutical industry, which from my own experience can also be a very challenging industry. Now, I often get young doctors, particularly, who are interested in working in the corporate space, and they will ask me about that. But you have been in the pharmaceutical industry for many years now. What suggestions would you or advice would you have for early career doctors, particularly those whose motivation is to transition to non-clinical roles in the pharmaceutical space? How would you advise them in terms of entering the industry, and how would they need to prepare themselves for the pharmaceutical industry?
So I really encourage doctors to find non-traditional career paths. Like I'm saying, when I was in clinical medicine, I really loved it. It's fulfilling, but sometimes I felt like I was limited in terms of the tools that I had to make the lives of patients better. And so I wanted to do something that's going to help me impact more than just the patient who's sitting in front of me. And being in the pharmaceutical industry helps you, gives you that opportunity to be able to impact not just the patient sitting in front of you, but you impact more generally. And so there is many careers that are available within the industry. So obviously, I think most people know now after COVID-19 that we discover medicines to address the needs, and so one could be involved in terms of clinical trials. So I was involved also in the clinical trial, helping to set them up, helping to come up with what are the questions that we need to be answering to make life better for people, right? Somebody has to come up with that. There's an opportunity to get involved in terms of patient safety, making sure that the medicines that are discovered and are used are safe for patients. There's an opportunity to get involved in transforming standards of care, because standards of care within different health systems, sometimes they're not where they're supposed to be. Sometimes, like for example, if you think about South Africa, our health system still needs so much transforming for us to be able to have those great outcomes for patients. Sometimes patients don't have access to medicines that people have had access for more than 10 years. You still don't have access to it in a certain country. So people have to be interested in making that change. So for me, that drives me to be able to be involved in that. So if there's a young doctor who's really interested, I will encourage them to reach out to people who are there. And we are so happy to bring more doctors into the industry, and we will give them advice, in terms of applying for jobs that are available. A lot of these companies will have training. So if you feel like maybe I've just finished medical school, all I know is clinical medicine, how do I really make the transition? There is training that is available that can be given. And also to just, like you say, stand on business in terms of doctors are the ones that know best what is happening in the clinic. Doctors are the ones that know what the patients are going through. Doctors are the ones that know how the treatment is going, and to be able to come in and bring in that expertise is really, really valuable. So it's a fulfilling career. I have had a very fulfilling career. I've learned so many things. I've learned different things in terms of leadership, in terms of working within teams, working within multidisciplinary teams. I've had the opportunity to meet colleagues from all over the world, honestly, and also form those relationships with them. I've had the opportunity to understand different healthcare systems, how they work, and what are some of the things that we could learn from them, and also had the opportunity to help healthcare systems share with each other. That's one of the things I love in my current role, is that I work with most countries outside of Europe and the US, and the opportunity to be able to share ideas is so tremendous. I love it. Sharing ideas between Japan and Canada, between China and Australia, between Brazil and Saudi Arabia. By sharing those ideas and having colleagues from different regions sitting around the table, we come up with such innovative ideas. So I love that. So it's really, really something I would encourage people to explore.
Yeah, and thank you so much for sharing that. And I'm sure somebody that has been worried or concerned about what the pharmaceutical industry looks like for a doctor, they'll definitely be helped by that advice. Is there anything you want to add for yourself or?
I mean, for me, I think it's as doctors to think that there's more than one path. I think that's important. There isn't just one single path. There's non-traditional careers, which I consider the one that I have a non-traditional career. I've had my mom ask me, "What do you do actually?" And now she really understands what I do. But explore the non-traditional careers, because I do think that the non-traditional careers um give an opportunity for us as doctors to impact in a different manner, to be able to impact health systems, to be able to impact innovation, to bring solutions for patients in a different way. So, I think in the past, people didn't really explore those non traditional careers, especially in South Africa. So, exploring those non traditional careers, I think that's what I would encourage doctors to do.
Great. Thank you so much for that suggestion, Dr. Shongi. And with that, that brings us to the end of our conversation. I'm sure we will meet again, since we are now both in the same country, over another cup of coffee, just to touch base. But to thank you again for your pearls of wisdom. Dr. Shongi Mabaso, pharmaceutical executive and medical doctor. And that wraps up another insightful episode of Doctors of the Baobab. I hope you found today's discussion both enlightening and empowering. But before we part ways, I want to extend a heartfelt invitation to all our listeners and viewers. If you're a medical doctor and you've been inspired by what you've heard today, you're ready to take action towards a positive change in your life, you can consider working with me, your host, Dr. Nondumiso Makhunga-Stevenson, as your personal life coach. You can email me at ubuntu.drcoaching@gmail.com to learn more about my coaching services and how we can embark on a transformative journey together, where we can navigate the challenges, uncover your strengths, and also unlock your fullest potential. Don't forget to subscribe to the podcast so that you never miss an episode that is filled with valuable insights and strategies for personal growth. Sharing is caring, so if you know someone who can also benefit from our discussions, be sure to spread the word and also encourage them to tune in. And you can also stay connected beyond the podcast. Follow us on social media, on LinkedIn, Facebook, and Instagram. Join the conversation, comment on the discussions, share your thoughts, and connect also with like-minded individuals who are also on a path on their journey towards living their best lives. Thank you for tuning in today. Remember, every small step you take towards his goal is a victory worth celebrating. Until next time, keep striving, keep growing, and keep shining the light. Doctors of the Baobab, where medicine meets motivation.